Through no fault of my own, I've been thinking a lot about David Brooks lately. I'll put it plainly, I kind of hate him. I think he stands for almost everything that's wrong with political journalism in America today, and he has for 20 something years. And every time I hear something about how he's gotten a new job or a promotion or a new book, a part of me really seethes. And you might have seethed too recently. Not too long ago, one of his last columns before he left the Times to go to the Atlantic and teach at Yale University was about Jeffrey Epstein. The headline of that column: The Jeffrey Epstein Story, Count Me Out. And then, a week later, a picture of him at an Epstein function came out. This is editing, Anna, dropping in to say there's also an email in the Epstein files showing John Brockman trying to arrange a flight for David Brooks with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, no one is saying that he's a pedophile, although, okay, some people are. There's a long story about how he had an affair with and married his research assistant. She was in her 30s. Um, it's problematic, but it's not Epstein. And I'm not trying to say that um, Brooks has anything morally culpable for anything that Epstein did. However, his defense of Epstein is pretty wild. Or it's not a defense of Epstein. It is, however, a defense of the Epstein class in a way. Anyway, I was so mad about the column. I decided to write a rewrite of it. I decided to do an edit. That's something I sometimes do with columns that really enrage me. And then I thought I'll do a video about this and I will show people how this Epstein column is an encapsulation of everything that sucks about David Brooks' writing. So I went back and looked at a lot of his material. Some of it you probably recognize or remember from the times it's gone viral for all the wrong reasons. This is what those columns have in common. It's invented anthropology. This is something he's been doing his entire career. My friend Sasha Eisenberg wrote a whole feature story 20 plus years ago disproving some of the anecdotes in David Brooks' first bestseller, which was called Bobos in Paradise. I'll link it in the description. So I'm poking around looking for other examples of his habits. And I find this op ed that stopped me in my tracks. It unsettled me. It's about a friend of his who committed suicide. And it's really, really good. First, it starts with a description of a person, his friend Pete. This is an individual he knew. Pete is not a stand in for a class. He's not an example of some anthropological phenomenon that Brooks wants to suggest as a explanation for our problems or introduce as a possible solution. It's a person. It's Pete. And then in this piece, he proceeds to confess. He confesses a lack of understanding. He admits he made mistakes. When he uses quotes, it doesn't feel like he's trying to cherry pick from the literature in order to support an existing thesis. It has the feel of a man genuinely baffled by what has happened and searching for the the experience of others that might bring it home to him. And I'll say what I really respect about some of this writing is that he clearly still doesn't understand, and that's part of the pain that he's writing from. He admits he gave bad advice and grounds that admission in some research, again, that seems less like he was trying to shore up a point and more like he wishes he had done something different. All of this is real humility. It's not humility in tone, it's humility in action. It's humility as method. The difference between the Epstein column and this column about his friend is about more than just Brooks. It's about how op-eds work and the failure of op-eds in journalism today. Most columns, not just Brooks's, are scaffolding. There's a thesis, and then you come up with words to support the thesis. And that's fine. Those are columns that I have written. That's what the machine of takery does. We kind of have to live with it. But in showing you the difference between these two columns, I want to open up a door to a different kind of political commentary, one that I've tried to practice, not always successfully. It's columns in which the moral clarity doesn't come first, where meaning isn't predetermined, meaning accumulates, focus sharpens. You don't try and control the exit. You don't comfort. You don't troll. You present. You don't start with a worldview. You start with a question. Or maybe even more than a question, you start with an experience. That's the real power of this opening from Brooks about his friend jumping and hitting his head on a door frame. Probably without completely realizing it, Brooks has done something incredibly powerful and literary. It's about a body that is soft hitting something that is hard, and about wounds that are just under the surface. You may think I'm being a little overly poetic here. And again, I don't think Brooks intended to do this, but that kind of synergy of symbolism and meaning happens when you write from a place that is real. Brooks is durable. He fits well into the take machine. He is predictable and consistent, both in the way that he comforts and the way that he provokes. Institutions reward that, and I get it. Sometimes I've had to form myself to the take machine as well. In times of chaos, people want certainty. This is the version of David Brooks I wish we got more often. We in the take industry and perhaps online in general are terrified of admitting that we don't know the answer to something. I know as an op-ed writer, it's almost impossible to pitch a story where I say, I don't know what the answer is. But more and more, I feel like that is the only place I can start. If you want to see my rewrite of Brooks's Epstein column, I did both a markup and just a clean version of it. And I will post it at my Patreon, where you can also become a Patreon supporter for a mere $5 a month, or $10 if you want to join me for morning writing sessions, or $150 a month if you want some editing, much like I did for David Brooks, although I promise probably a little bit kinder. You can follow me on Blue Sky at Anna Marie Cox, on Instagram at Anna Marie Cox. And if you give this a like or a subscribe or share it with someone you know, I'd really appreciate it. Thanks so much.